Why, hello there. I'm Sin. We're in the Book Nook, and today we're going to talk about a book called The Keeper of Lonely Spirits by E.M. Anderson. And this is like an eerie, spooky fantasy. And the topic it centers around is grief and loss, but it's sad, it's sweet, it's spooky, it's weird, and it's about finding a place to belong when you feel like you don't belong anywhere. And it follows the main character, Peter Shaughnessy. He's in his 70s, but actually, he's about 200 years old because a long time ago he was cursed by the Fae because he didn't really believe in the Fae and all that. And so he was cursed to forever wander far from home. He had to leave his home in Ireland and his family. Everyone that he has ever loved and known has died, and he carries this curse with him. And so he's always leery about making friends or becoming close with anyone in different places that he goes because he knows he'll outlive them and that they will all die and he'll still be alive. So he's become kind of like a ghost hunter where he comes to towns that have issues with different ghosts and helps get rid of that ghost or gets them to move on or stop harassing the living and whatnot. He can see and talk to spirits. He also talks to plants, which I thought was kind of a cool thing. So he leaves Savannah. He was currently in Savannah when you come into the story, and he leaves because he hears about this ghost that is in Harrington, Ohio. And he gets a job as a graveyard keeper. So he helps around there, helps, clean the graves and plants different plants around and this, that, and the other. And he's also looking for this ghost that it seems has been like wreaking havoc on this town for quite some time. And as they get closer to like Midsummer's Eve, that seems to be a time when the ghost will be more powerful and more intense and could possibly hurt people. So he moves to this town and then he meets the woman who works in the graveyard. Her name's Nevaeh, and her father had passed somewhat recently and is buried in that graveyard, and his ghost is in the graveyard. And the emotional response that like the ghosts have when they see their loved ones is like in colors and in smells, which I thought was kind of interesting and kind of cool. So the whole thing is he comes to this town to try to get rid of this, I would say, evil, really angry presence ghost. And he starts to meet the people who live in the town, and they start to get under his skin, and he starts to form relationships with them. But he fights this the whole time because he's like, I can't stay. I know I can't stay. I can't form attachments to these people because I have to move on, because then he builds up a wall so that he doesn't get hurt because he doesn't want to experience that loss again. But that's not healthy either. He has this internal struggle going on with him, like as he starts to meet other people in the town. He meets this museum curator. The museum curator is coming to the cemetery to catalog old graves. And to catalog the old graves, they're back in this one part of the cemetery that's like where some of those bad vibes are, where this bad spirit might be. So sometimes people have fallen back there, and like even the trees and stuff, because Peter can hear what they're saying, are giving off like worried or weird vibes and stuff. And so he worries now about the museum curator because he's back in that area where the bad spirit may be. And so he starts like helping him back there because, he's worried that he might be attacked by the spirit. And so they start to form a relationship, but he's always like pulling back, and then he fights with himself to like, they start having lunch together, and he's like, it's just lunch. We're just sitting on a bench, sharing space. Not a big deal. I'm gonna leave anyway, so this is fine, and he keeps this. He's like, deny, deny, deny. And then at one point there's some kids, and kids will be kids, and they at night break into the cemetery, and they go back in the one area where the scary spirit is, and like one of them goes missing in there. He finds the missing kid, and they take him back to the parents, and eventually he becomes friends with like the kids and the parents. And so he starts forming all these relationships, and the whole time he's like, I'm not supposed to do this. And then so he tries to like pull away or push people away, and it's like a back and forth kind of like tug of war with himself, not letting these people like in, because even though like he feels love for them, he fights against it. He like fights against all these friendships. Does he give in eventually? Well, you'll have to read it to find out. This book's described as cozy, but to me I mean, it's kind of cozy, but it's also like such serious subject matter with the grief and the loss, and just even though like his situation was he was cursed by the Fae, you know, and like everyone around him will die and he will continue living, people still do that anyway, you know, like if you've been hurt before, you slowly start to build a wall sometimes, and it is, you don't want to always let people in because you're afraid of being hurt again. So like that aligns just with people in normal life too, not just someone who is possibly going to live forever that doesn't know how to break this curse and all of that stuff. You also get into his backstory of what actually happened when he was cursed. So you see like what happened with his family and like the sadness and tragedy that happened with that. And, you know, obviously after that, he always believed in the Fae, and now he sees spirits and talks to plants. So he's like, I guess all that stuff was real that I thought was all. My mom was just a, you know, telling us stories either to scare us or for whatever her reasoning was, but she was correct. Those things were real, and it's unfortunate the way he had to learn, but it's a story of, I guess you would say, more like learning how to find a place to belong again and letting yourself belong. It's spooky, it's sad, it's sweet, it's emotional, and it was such just a really sweet and lovely read. If you like books that take place in a cemetery, that center around grief, that have angry spirits, and trying to figure out why this angry spirit wants to cause pain to everyone, you know, people who fight what they're feeling inside and how to overcome that, then you might just like The Keeper of Lonely Spirits. And I love too that the main character was, well, I mean, in this he's like, looks like he's in his 70s, but he's 200. So yeah, I've found a few books recently that have had older characters, and I enjoy that because yeah, I want a variety of ages in my books, you know? I don't always want like 20 somethings or 30 somethings or 40 somethings. Like, give me some older people. It's great. I love it. If that sounds good to you, The Keeper of Lonely Spirits by E.M. Anderson just might be something you want to check out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.